Well, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you all for taking your time today, and I hope you are all well and safe. My name is Edison, and I'm a product trainer from the Canva Customer Happiness team, and I'm presenting from Manila, the Philippines. Before we start, we just have a few reminders. This session will be recorded, and a link will be sent out to everyone who registered within a couple of weeks of the event. Also, please feel free to ask questions anytime during the workshop. Jess and I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A panel, but if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A panel rather than the chat panel, so that way we can keep the answers with your questions rather than have them get lost in the flow of the chat. And then we'll also select some of those questions, which we will answer at the live Q&A at the last part of this webinar. We've got an exciting workshop for you today on launching your LGBTQIA+ campaign with Canva. We're joined by Dan Hart, our learning design expert at Canva University, as well as a proud member of the Canva Pride Group, and Nick Belshaw, our design educator also at Canva, who also dabbles on vlogging via Canva's YouTube channel and Canva's Design School. So today's workshop is timely despite today being the last day of the Pride Month, because as we all know, Pride doesn't stop after June. So we will keep fighting and we will keep making ourselves heard, and Canva is here to help you with this. What is Canva? Who's used Canva before? So let me show by a virtual hands. Show a virtual hands in the chat to use Canva. Who has used Canva before? So for those who haven't used Canva before, Canva is a free tool. You can visit canva.com and start creating a design even without signing up or logging in. And you can also type in design.new. That's design.new and the address bar of your browser to get your first Instagram post. You don't have to sign in or log in to create a design in Canva. Also, we have good news for those who are part of nonprofit organizations. You can get the pro version for free, but we'll give you more details about it later. Canva is more than just a product. We're a company with a very ambitious mission to empower the whole world to design. Our vision is to have everyone everywhere achieve their goals through design. And one of our values within Canva is to set crazy big goals and make them happen. We like the idea of sharing this value and helping everyone to achieve their goals, big and small, everywhere. We believe design is for everyone, which is why we're here today to help you on your design journey. As of this time, we've helped and provided Canva Pro. It's our monthly subscription for free to about 100,000 nonprofits. They use Canva to promote their cause and raise funds, striving towards incredibly important goals from ending poverty, curing cancer, providing quality education, and solving homelessness. Canva provides them this Canva Pro premium subscription, as well as community workshops and events designed to upskill nonprofit organizations with marketing and design skills. Some of those largest nonprofit organizations that use Canva as of this time are Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, World Wildlife Fund, and UNICEF. So if you're on Facebook, we also invite you to join our Canva Nonprofits Community Facebook group. You can look it up by using the keywords Canva Nonprofits. It's totally free. It's an exclusive group, so once you join, somebody from our community team will review your application. Anyway, to get started, we have divided this webinar into 4 sections to give you the tools you need to understand your audience and create your first campaign assets in Canva. So first section will be the activism campaigns, which I will give you some brief background. And then Dan will give you insights on marketing bootcamp. And then the third section will be with Nick on designing with Canva. And then the last section would be for Q&A. So get wild with your questions and then we'll answer them by the end of this session. But you can just put your questions in the Q&A panel anytime during this workshop. So what is campaign for activism? What is a campaign for activism? At Canva, we make campaign assets like the one you're seeing now. They're readily available to everyone to help the people in your movement to speak in one voice. We have campaign assets for climate change, the one that you're seeing now. Then we also have some for Earth Day, Black Lives Matter, and many more which you can use at Canva to get your message across with coherence and consistency. It's important to speak with one voice. when you create these campaigns. On the next slide, we're going to show you a campaign video from TGEU. And this is a great example of a campaign that has made great use of visual communication like illustrations, logo, color animations, and many more to have an impact. So let's watch this video from TGEU. It will only take about 2 minutes.
Stigma and discrimination against trans people remain a global reality. Trans people are victims and survivors of horrifying hate violence. Harassment, isolation, and exclusion have serious impacts on mental and physical well-being. Laws and policies support the criminalization of the most marginalized of us, the homeless, the poor, sex workers, people of color, those without documents. Worldwide, there are many trans groups fighting for the rights of trans people, but political contexts and persecution often limit access to data. Spaces for civil society are small and shrinking more and more. Trans groups and organizations are understaffed and under-resourced. Activist burnout is a common occurrence. We must come together and support each other. We must recognize our fights and our achievements. Trans people know best what our needs are. So the Asia-Pacific Transgender Network initiated a consultation on how to improve care of trans communities and address safety gaps. Activists in Central Asia organized the first camp for families of trans people. Family and peer support can be extremely important for the well-being of trans people throughout our lives. In the Caribbean, activists have formed the first trans-specific network to share strategies, build solidarity, and raise the voices of trans communities in the region. Together, we will continue fighting until we are all safe.
So we still got a long way to go for protecting the human rights of our transgender friends, but seeing that video makes us, all aware and want to help to contribute to their fight. Now, to help you identify the audience for your first campaign, I'm handing you over to Dan. Hello, Dan. Take it away.
Thank you, Edison. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan. I'm from our Canva U team here in Sydney. Really excited to be here with you this evening, this morning, this afternoon, this 1 a.m. I think I've seen from someone in San Fran. You'll have to excuse me though, my dog has woken up and is clearly excited too and is trying to bite my arm as I talk. So if you see me twitching, I'm very sorry. My colleagues at Canva all know my dog is intense and likes to always perk up right when I need him to be quiet. So today we're going to be exploring a key ingredient that you absolutely need to nail to succeed in your social media campaign. And that is understanding who you're talking to and what you're going to say to convince that person to help you. So let's drill into today an understanding of our person. Now we need a very particular type of person here, a special one we call a first follower. So what's a first follower? Well, I am glad you asked. Today I'm going to explain to you what on earth a first follower is and why they are so valuable. We're going to think about what will drive them to give to you in whatever way you need them to give. And finally, we're going to look at a persona activity. We put it all together into some homework for you to complete after this session to help you start identifying what your audience is going to be and who your first followers are as you launch your social media campaigns. So when we think a little bit about social marketing, the first follower becomes important because social media marketing is a little bit like a wedding dance. So I'm sure we've all been there at a really lovely wedding. The couple have shared what is always a stunning, beautiful, lovely first dance. And then they invite the rest of the wedding up to join them on the dance floor. Except nobody tends to do this straight away. Suddenly we've all gotten a little bit shy, right? So enter the drunk cousin. They have zero shame getting up on that dance floor and shaking their groove thing to the beat. And once that drunk cousin has got up and started that dance movement, everyone else seems a little more confident in getting up so that they can all get down and boogie. Now, just like a wedding dance, we see the same pattern in the way people adopt technology, the popularity of different products, people, and most importantly for you, how people adopt social causes. If you can get that first group of 50, 100, 1,000 first followers on board and rapidly supporting you, then the next million followers is going to be so much easier to get. So how do you find your first follower? And how are you going to convince them to rapidly and enthusiastically support you and what you were trying to achieve? Well, it all starts with empathy. So my question for you all, if you want to pop into the chat, is what is empathy? What does that mean to you? Putting yourself in someone's shoes, excellent. Yeah, I love that. Feeling a sense of kinship with others, understanding, Bernardo, fantastic. Any other thoughts? Understanding others' needs. Yeah, well done. All right, it's all about understanding someone else's perspective. All right, now when we're talking about your first follower, showing empathy for them is putting yourself in their shoes and trying to work out what it is that makes them tick and what it is you can do to really capture them and get them engaged, get them supporting, and get them working with you in what you're trying to achieve. So what we need to do is to get inside the heads of our first followers. Now, a lot of marketers will stop at demographics. They'll know where their user lives, they know how much they earn, they know what platforms they use. All of that is super important. But if we know exactly where to reach them, but we don't know what to tell them, there's a potential there for us to waste a lot of time in what we're trying to achieve. So this is where this big term, psychographics, comes in. What we mean by psychographics is simply figuring out what makes our first followers tick with the goal of making your cause the most exciting cause for them in the world, so they really want to support you. What we need to do is understand how your first followers, your target audience, are going to see that difference you're trying to make. Because there's lots of causes out there that your first followers might not give to, and they don't want to give to. And we need to know what's the thing that gets them over the edge. What is it going to be that makes them connect with you and your purpose? Why will they want to support you? And what is going to be that thing that motivates them to give? So when we think about people's motivation to give, there's 5 key reasons. First up, there's the idea of glory. Your first follower may think other people are going to see me giving. They're going to think I'm cool, awesome, or a really good human. There's also this idea of glow. For your first follower, it might feel good to give. It might give them a rush to know that they've helped save a cute animal or help save a hungry or homeless child. And down the bottom left, you can see this term guilt. Sometimes people give because they feel bad about things in the world, or they feel bad not to give. All right, it's a strange one, that one. But guilt actually can be a pretty powerful motivator for people. Now, I love this one on the bottom right, grow. And that's about giving being a way to improve or develop yourself in some way. It could be, I want to be a better person. It could be, it's some great experience for me. All right, lots of our volunteer giving is related to this idea of grow. But there's one we haven't mentioned yet, and a very important one we cannot forget. It is the idea of greed. All right, now I'm not talking about greed in a negative way here. All right, when we think about greed, it's more about someone meeting their own needs. All right, so not all giving is purely altruistic. Sometimes people want something in return for their giving. A lot of the time, if you see a crowdfunding campaign, for example, the cause will offer some kind of perk in return for the contribution or the give that people make. So a really cool example, or a fun example, I should say, of a greed-motivated exercise was a custom autograph from a pig rescued from an animal sanctuary. So what they would do is this. The pig would get some mud on its nose and smush its snout into paper. And if you donated $100 to the animal sanctuary, you get a framed autograph from that pig. All right, so greed is okay. It really is okay to have something symbolically valuable or genuinely valuable to give to those people in return for them supporting your cause. So you can see here, we've had a look at what kind of needs we need to meet for our first follower. We've had a look at their reasons for giving. And now we need to also think about the demographics piece. I said that was important, as much important as the psychographics, but it's a final ingredient we need to create a real understanding of our target audience and who our first follower may be. So we're thinking about here, where are you going to go to tell your first follower what they need to hear? And how much and what kind of support can they give to you? So those three areas are going to give us a lot of good information, a lot of good data here that we can start to look at. And with that, we can really start to get inside their heads. But how do we do that when we're working in a team? All right, how do we turn all this data around our potential first followers or audience into something useful? To do that, I'm going to show you an example of something called a persona. We wanted to have a look at a quick case study here of a really great initiative in Australia called the Queer Formal by -18, who are a group supporting LGBTQIA+ youth over here in my home country of Australia. So a bit of background to it. LGBTQIA+ youth in Australia still experience some of the highest rates of bullying of any demographic. And really, unfortunately, the most common place that this happens is at school. So in 2021, young people are still being told they cannot attend a high school formal with their same-sex partner, or they're even made to feel uncomfortable for wearing the clothes that align with their gender identity. But that's where the Queer Formal comes in. So a Queer Formal is a night for more than 500 LGBTQIA+ youth to attend a sit-down dinner, watch live musical artists, listen to inspiring speeches, and to dance the night away. The goal of this night is to create a night where every single young person can attend for free. Now, the goal is also to host queer formals in some of Australia's key cities, such as Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. So thinking through this intent of -18 and what they're trying to achieve, we had to think about what might be the kind of audience or persona who we're trying to tap in to get support here. So when you come to design your campaign, to identify your audience, you're going to interview real people and combine all their answers into a persona, right? A representative of the demographic you're aiming at. Now, it's important to remember, this isn't just one real person, rather it's an example of the type of person you hope to reach with your campaign. So we're going to share with you this persona template in a little while, and you can use this to collate common themes you find from the people you interview around your campaign and what you are trying to achieve. So as an example of what we thought a persona that could be, being reached out or targeted by -18 for their campaign here is Marcus, the social media manager. All right. So we look at the demographics piece first. We know that Marcus is 32. He's a cisgender male, single, earns $95K a year, and identifies as gay. In terms of his giving role, what would he do from those 5 giving roles? We thought it might be glow. So for Marcus, it would feel good to support a cause that he wished existed when he was a teen. So as a gay teen, maybe he didn't feel he had the chance to bring his same-sex partner to his school formal. Now, in terms of the goals and responsibilities Marcus might have, we thought someone like Marcus might want to rally his friends, rally his community to raise around $500 that they could donate to -18. And his responsibility is to get others educated and get them supporting the cause of the queer formal. Now, in terms of Marcus's needs, we thought someone like Marcus might want to help young LGBTQIA+ people live the high school experience that they truly deserve to have, and perhaps are being declined because of the situation they find themselves in with their school. Now, really important, one thing to think about when you are looking at your potential audience, your first follower, is their objections, right? We have to be able to think about what might get in the way so that we can strategize and think about how we would handle that roadblock to make sure it doesn't become a blocker for their support of your cause. So for Marcus, we thought an objection might be, how do I know my money is actually being used to make a difference here? Now, it's also important to think about frustrations, all right? What could be preventing your target audience from really engaging in this or making them not feel, a great sense of success with what they're trying to achieve? And for a person like Marcus, it could be that people are not donating to their fundraiser. But in terms of Marcus's buyer's journey, all right, Marcus is all about advocacy. He knows a lot about the cause, what -18 and the queer formal are trying to achieve, and he wants to tell other people about this cause and raise money. When we think about using Marcus, a social media manager, as a persona, obviously Marcus is going to have quite a bit of spread, quite a bit of reach on social media. So we thought he probably uses TikTok for social interactions or to connect with influencers. He'd probably use WhatsApp to connect with family and friends. and might use Instagram for his business endeavors, but also socially, right, to get his story out there in the world. The last piece that's also really important to think about too is where your target audience might get their information from, all right? Sources of information. It may be social media, but there might be other avenues, including local advocacy groups, all right? Advertising they may do in the local area, but also LGBTQIA plus media, all right? Does he follow particular websites, read some of the local LGBTQI plus newspapers, and those kind of bits and pieces out there in the community. So this is how we collate all our data and create one kind of example of who our first follower or our target audience may be. Now, we have a template for you that we will share with you now. If you want to scan that QR code, feel free, or you can click on the link in the chat. But this is something you can access later and have a go at creating that first follower for when you're ready to start really thinking about building this social media campaign. Now, one awesome thing as well we've included in there for you is some interview questions to help you get started. Remember, it's important to ask about lots of different people, what's going on, and how we can, use that data to create this persona of our first follower. So the important part, how are you going to make this persona? Well, there are 3 steps that you're going to follow. First up, simply talk to people, all right? Talk to someone who supports your cause. Ask them questions. Find out what you want to know in terms of those psychographics and those demographics to give you a fully fleshed out picture of who they may be. And lastly is write it all down, all right? Fill out as much of that persona as you can and write it down in the template so you have a really good understanding of what your target audience may be and what it is you can do to get them engaged in what you're trying to achieve. Let's have a look at some sample interview questions, all right? When you are going to create your persona, you want to be asking people the right questions to get that right kind of data points in there for you to really construct a well fleshed out kind of vision of who that person may be. So starting with the psychographics, remember trying to work out why your first follower will support you, who they might trust and why. So these are really good questions to help you understand that a bit more. First up, obviously, why do you support us? What are the things that make them want to be involved and support your campaign? On the flip side then though, is why don't you support us? What is it maybe that's blocking them, preventing them from engaging with you and what you're trying to achieve? Now, a fantastic question is tell me about the best experience you have had supporting a cause, all right? What can you capture there to maybe shape the way you pitch your campaign to them to help them feel like it's going to be something that they want to invest in or support? It's also important to know who they follow on social, all right? Who do they follow? What kind of audience do they have? What kind of people might their reach be able to support you with? And lastly, whose opinion do you trust and why? It's great to know whose opinion they trust because it might help you in terms of some of the information you share, some of the thoughts or ideas that you express through your social media marketing campaign to support your cause. Now, looking at the demographics, right? Some of the things that help you understand the who, the what, and maybe the where of your first follower. Obviously, understanding age demographic, really important. So you know who you are targeting and maybe what you can do to kind of hit appropriately what they might need. Strange question, always good to talk about money, but it's important, all right, important you find out a little bit about your target audience because you need to understand what they have and how much they could maybe then invest to support you, if that's what you were looking for in terms of your campaign. Now, great question is what do you give to causes you care about, all right? Getting a ballpark level kind of amount of support they could give so you kind of know where you're pitching and what you might be able to achieve. Finding out their social platforms, obviously important. We're talking about social media marketing. So where are you going to be best positioned to hit this kind of person with your campaign? And lastly, what do you use these platforms for? Really important question, because if someone is purely on, let's say, Instagram for business and you're pitching a social cause, they might not connect with it in the best way. Whereas if they use Facebook socially and you want to talk about a social cause there, that'll be more of an ideal space for you to connect with them. So both these sets of questions, really, really useful. Do get out there and talk to some of your current followers, find out this information so you can start really thinking about who my target audience may be and what I need to do to create a persona that is going to help me support that. So now you've got a good idea of who your first follower and your audience might be. It's time to start actually designing your campaign assets in Canva. So I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Nick now, and he's going to tell you more about how to use Canva to design these campaign assets.
Hopefully you can see a waving hand and a bit of type there. So yes, I've been at Canva for about 2 years. I'm a brand designer, and I have a background in education design and branding for many years. And today we're going to look at how do we leverage Canva as a design tool to create a campaign. I'm going to spend a lot of time sharing some really useful practical tips today. So if you've been waiting for someone to guide you through our product in a little bit more detail, well, today's your lucky day. And we're going to do lots of product demos as well. So you'll see a lot of how some stuff works. So how do we design a campaign in Canva? Well, a campaign is essentially an expression of your brand. So we really need to start by building a brand. And then we can start to look at campaign assets such as social media or Instagram, and we'll take a look at that a bit later on today. So this is a pretty broad question, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what is a brand? I think the best way to think about brand, of course, it is things like your color, your logo, it's the way you speak, it's your design aesthetic, it's typography, it's so many different things. But a good way to think of it is the experiences and associations that your community has when they think of your brand. It's really like a promise that you make to your community. It's a way for them to connect and understand who you are out there in the world. So this is something called a style guide. It's a really simple one-page style guide. We have obviously a logo here. We've got some colors and some typography and some photography. Now this is what we call a visual identity. So of course, a brand is a lot bigger than this. Today, we're just focusing on the visual aspect of a brand. But of course, if you're interested in learning more about I guess the initial stages of branding with things like purpose and values and how do you choose a brand identity. All of that can be found in, we've got a bunch of other workshops that go a lot more in depth into that. So today we're going to break down visual branding into 4 areas: design a logo, connect with color, find the right font, and style your imagery. So for today, we've got a little workbook which you can open up, and you can click the link in the chat to get access to this. And there's no pressure for you to fill this out immediately today as we're going through the workshop. This is for you to fill out kind of in your own time. But what you'll see is that it looks something like this. So you'll have a presentation that opens up right here in the editor inside Canva. Make sure you're logged into your Canva account before you open that link also. And you'll see some areas here to add in things like your brand name, a color palette, some typography, imagery, and a few other things. So we're going to work through some of these items today. And hopefully by the end of this workshop, you'll have a good sense of what goes into a really simple style guide like this one. So for those of you who don't know, if you run a nonprofit, if you're a registered nonprofit, we actually give away Canva Pro for free forever to these organizations. And Canva Pro will give you access to some really amazing features, one of which is Brand Kit. And this is a really great place for you to keep all of your brand assets so you can easily apply them to all of your designs and your templates as you're working. So be sure to stick around at the end. I'm pretty sure we have a link for a extended trial for Canva Pro that we're going to share with all of you. But of course, yeah, this is a really fantastic tool to help you with your campaigns. So let's jump into one of the most important parts of a brand, which is the logo. A lot of people would argue it's the most important part. I would argue that it's just another touch point, and you can use other parts of your brand to flex and communicate who you are. But nonetheless, a logo is something that codifies and quantifies who you are. And it's something that a lot of people find very important. So a logo can be split up really into 3 sort of categories here in the broad sense. So we have symbols, word marks, or we have a combination of both. In case you're wondering what the combination is here in the FedEx example, there is an arrow that points to the right between the E and the X here. which sort of symbolizes moving forward or deliveries. It's a very prominent part of FedEx's branding and quite a clever, simple way of putting a visual element into a logo. Another example we have here is from Nike. Now, of course, this abstract symbol meant absolutely nothing when the designer first created it. In fact, Nike is the Greek goddess of victory, and it's a winged goddess. So they essentially took the idea of a wing and abstracted it down to this swoosh or this tick, which they've invested billions of dollars in marketing now, and of course is unmistakably Nike. So what about for you designing your own logo using Canva? So I did show you my example at the beginning. I'm going to show you how I put this together now. There are literally thousands of templates available for you in Canva, which you can use to get started. And yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that just now. So let's jump over into the edit here. So once you're logged into Canva, you'll see something like this. This is the Canva homepage. And to get started with any design, you can see there are categories up here in the main banner, which help you break down our templates into certain use cases. I'm just going to come up to the top here and search for logo. Actually, I might even get more specific than that and say square logo, if I can spell. And let's see what we find. So you can see here there are tons of different templates. There's also filters, so you can sort of break things down by category. In this case, I'm going to go for, let's try this logo here. And I'm going to make something similar to my logo, but I'm going to create what's called a reverse version. So rather than being a dark logo on a white or light background, I'm making a light or white logo on a dark background. So let's see if we can recreate my logo here. So first of all, you can see I've got elements here that are grouped together. There's two different text boxes that are actually grouped together. So I'm actually just going to come here and click ungroup. And I'm going to get rid of this bottom line. We don't need that one. And let's just see if we can scale this up sort of about there. And we'll put in my brand name, Ocean.org. And I need to change the font here. So I'm using something called Anton as my primary brand font. So there it is. But you can search by fonts over here using different categories or keywords. So you can see here, handwriting, display, headings. There's all sorts of different ways you can sort of browse through our font library. It makes it super easy for you to find something that matches. Now I'm going to just quickly adjust some of the line spacing here. We'll just bring that up a little bit. Let's make that a little bigger. We don't need this AV part. And the last thing I'm going to do here is find, here we go. I'm going to use this coral element and put this into the center of my square. And we'll change that to the same color as the background. All right. Well, that was pretty quick. I don't know if anyone timed me. That probably took me 2 minutes to create a logo from scratch. So that's just an example of how quick this stuff can come together. We're going to go through each of these elements in a little bit more detail, so don't feel overwhelmed. But I just wanted to show you how simple it is to pull together something like a logo in Canva. So let's break this down a little further. Let's get into color next. Color is one of the most important aspects of design and the way we communicate. It's very important in every aspect of our lives, really. If you think about photography and how important it is for photographers to use color to create mood and to convey emotion. We have a color palette here that I've put together for my fake brand, my nonprofit, Ocean.org, and I've basically put together 4 colors. So we have one primary color, which is used most of the time, and then we have 3 secondary colors, which are used proportionally a lot less than the primary color. So we're going to look at how to put this together into your style guide. Again, coming back over here, we have a spot here for you to add in your own colors. All right, so where do we start? Let's have a look at this. This is called the color wheel. Hopefully you've all seen this before. And just to give you a little bit of a recap from, I guess, elementary level color here, we have primary colors which mix into secondary colors, which mix into tertiary colors, and they make up the 12 colors on the color wheel. The other thing you might notice here is if I was to draw a line probably about here, all the colors on this side of the color wheel are very warm, and all the colors on the other side are very cool. So you have warm and cool colors that are in equal proportions on the color wheel. And this is where it gets a little bit more complex. So we can actually use science to help us extract or choose colors that work really well together. So to give you an idea of how this works, color harmonies break down the color wheel into sort of scientific designations of color. So a complementary color palette is simply two colors that are on either opposite ends of the color wheel. A monochromatic palette is something like this, where you take one color and you add varying degrees of shade and tint to that color to make it lighter or darker. And that helps you create a lot of contrast in your color palette. This is actually a really effective way to build a campaign or a brand around something like a single monochromatic color palette. Some of these other harmonies get a little bit more complex, and we'll have a look at those in our color resource tool in just a moment. The other really important aspect of color is emotion or subtext. A color, we know, has this inherent connection to ideas and culture in a way that no other part of design ever can. So have a think about what the color is saying about you, or how you can use color to reinforce the message behind your brand or your campaign. So for an example here, there's definitely a good reason that a lot of banks and insurance companies use blue, because it's very dependable and secure and professional. Same thing goes for, you imagine a lot of cosmetic companies, maybe a hospital, something like that. They're always going to use white because it's clean and sterile. And then again, with food, quite often we see a lot of red and yellow in the food space. Obviously, hunger and passion, at least in the example of McDonald's, I think ketchup and mustard come to mind. So have a think about what the color says for you. It's very, very important to try and relate color to your message. Another really useful tip here for campaigning or branding with color is to look at your competitors. If you do this, you don't have to do anything this crazy as this example here on the left. But if you try to plot some of your competitors on a color wheel like this, it might help you identify some gaps where you can apply your brand or your campaign without your audience being confused. So have a look at maybe your top 3 or 5 other organizations that operate in a similar space or in a similar area even, and try and figure out what kind of colors might work for your campaign or your brand. So I've got a really fantastic resource here. If you go to canva.com/colors, spelt the American way, let's come over here and find it. This is the page here. So canva.com/colors. There's some really great resources. So let's start first of all with the color wheel. So we just learned a little bit about some of the different color harmonies here. And I told you a little bit about the triadic palette, for example. Let's have a look at that one. This is essentially 3 colors that are equal points away from each other on the color wheel. You can see here, as I select my first point, my second point automatically updates, which is fantastic. So let's see if we can get some ocean colors going on here. Somewhere around there. There's another ring on the outside here where you can pull down to add some extra tint as well to darken it up. Let's go maybe around there. And now you can see there's my 3 colors. So I can click on the bottom here to copy what's called a hex code, this little 6-digit code here. So I'm going to copy that and come back over to my guide here. Click on this gray square and let's choose the little color tile up in the top. And I'm going to paste in that code just here. There we go. So that's updated my code. I might even just put in the actual numbers of the code itself there. Going to a little bit extra length here, but you can see it makes it really easy for you to update your color palette. I'll just do one more here. Let's use the color tile, put that in. There we go. So I'm starting to build a color palette for my brand really easily. Another really great way to build a color palette is to use our color palette generator. So this is a really simple way for you to start with an image and then extract the colors from that image. I'm sure we've all done this before, where you found a fantastic photo of something that really encapsulates your brand or your identity, and you want to use the mood from that image. This is a really great way to do it. So you can upload an image and then it'll extract those colors right out of it for you. And another really cool tip here is if you find an image and you want to use it in your design, like maybe right here inside Canva, let's try taking a photo here. maybe this one, just as an example. Once you add a photo to your design, what you'll notice here is if we come to our color picker, there's actually an area here called photo colors. So you can see Canva actually automatically scans every image in your design to figure out what colors are inside, and then you can obviously build a palette on that. So there's another really great tip to bring it over into the editor. So let's get rid of that photo. Now, I won't go into too much detail, more detail here, but there is one more area which I find really interesting. If you're really fascinated with the science and symbolism behind color, if you're a bit of a color nerd like me, you'll probably really love this. So if you want to learn about the color yellow, this will tell you all about the history of yellow, what it represents, so mental clarity and intellect, other ways you can use color, what you can pair it with, how you can convert across different color spectrums, all sorts of different interesting stuff. So lots to play around with there. All right, let's move on to the next part here, which is typography or fonts. Now, this is obviously a huge topic as well, but I'm going to try and distill it down into just a handful of categories to help us understand a little easier how to select and use typography in the right circumstance. I've got a question for you. Can anyone tell me the difference between serif, sans, and what's the difference? When would you use them? Yes, there are feet, Geraldine says here. So absolutely. Let's have a look. So serif has these little feet, if you like. They're actually called serifs, and they're like little decorative notches on the edges of the letters, which help guide your eye across the page. And they're really common in classic print, and they sort of come about from the Gutenberg press days, very, very old fashioned, and they have a very traditional kind of look to them. Now, we have another category called sans, which is simply French for without. And these are inherently a lot more modern and clean. They come from the digital age. They sort of came about around the same time as digital screens really needed something that was a lot cleaner for low resolution digital screens. There's a third category we need to talk about, which is display. So the best way to describe display fonts is that they have a lot of personality. So you can see here, this column over here has a lot of really loud, interesting looking typography with lots of personality. You want to use them in small doses because they're a little hard to read, especially if you've got a long block of text. Reading it all in this script handwriting might be a little difficult for your audience. So consider using display for things like logos, maybe a headline, something like that. And then we can use a serif or a sans serif for our longer bits of copy. All right, so I'm going to show you how you can find some of these typographic pairings now in Canva. So let's jump back over into the editor. I'm going to find my brand style guide. So there's a page in here for you to select some typography. So you can add a primary font and a secondary font here. I would recommend not going more than 2 fonts for now. 2 fonts is usually enough to give you quite a lot of flexibility. So try just picking 1 primary for your headlines and 1 secondary for everything else. And that'll help you, establish your campaign and meet most use cases. So let me try adding in my brand name here. So Ocean.org. And of course, I can come up in here and choose Anton, which is my primary font here. And I'm also going to make this, let's make it uppercase. Now, if you don't have any idea of how to get started with what fonts you want to use here, try using the text tab over here in the object panel. We have these really fantastic font pairings. Some of them have effects and different things on them, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some of these. Let's find a little bit further down. Yeah, here we go. So we have some different really wonderful font pairings, like this one, for example. I'll just move this off to the side. Let's get rid of this out of the way for now. So this could become my font pair. So we've got League Spartan as my primary, and then we have this sort of slab or serif font here, which is Sanchez. And that's a really great way to start pairing your fonts by using one of these templates. All right, let's come back over to the presentation here. A few more little tips here to help you get started with font pairing. Remember that opposites attract. It sounds probably a little obvious, but here's some really clear examples of how this sort of comes together. So we mean look at different traits within fonts and try to contrast them. It's all about contrast. So you could use a really short or a tall font together. You could use simple with a decorative font, works really nicely. Obviously, sans and serif is also a classic pairing, works really well. So you can get a long way by thinking about how are you contrasting the fonts by picking an opposite trait within them. That's a really good way to approach this. Okay, so we're going to jump into imagery now and have a very quick look at what's involved. So when we talk about imagery, we're really talking about two things. We're talking about illustration and we're talking about photography. So sometimes you would just use one over the other, and in some instances you might try to use both. So for me, in my fake brand here, Ocean Orb, I've created a bit of a photography style, and I've also created a bit of a illustration style for my campaigns. So just to give you an idea how you might put these together inside Canva, let's come back over here and have a look. So here's my photography page. So this is really just to help you establish what your photos should look like to keep a consistent look. This could also include video as well. In fact, I'm going to see if I can find a video to include rather than another image. Let's take this one here, this beach video. And what I could actually do here to create even more consistency is add maybe a filter. So you can see we've got filters. I wanted to use something maybe to really bring a nice consistent aesthetic. I could use something like the street filter, for example, which will give me a black and white look for all of my images. And this is obviously a really good way to add a similar treatment to all of your photos. I'm not going to do that for the videos at the moment, but there's just an idea of how you can do it. Now, for graphic devices or illustrations, it's really good to establish what these look like first as well and use these consistently in your communication. So I've obviously chosen a bunch of nice little line illustrations here of different ocean objects. So you could find these in the Elements tab over here. And you can search for, well, here we go, search for ocean line illustration in this instance. And this will search everything, photos, videos, audio, everything. So we just want to choose graphics here just to see all of the icons and illustrations for this particular search. And you can see here, there's a whole bunch that are all part of the same kind of set, which is really helpful. So let's maybe take this little Nautilus shell, and that can be one of our assets. All right, so we're starting to build a whole bunch of different visual tools that we can assemble, I guess, brand templates and apply a consistent treatment across all of our different campaign assets now. So it's looking really good. Okay, so let's jump into designing for social media next, because we've created a brand, we've got some assets. Now we need to put it into action, into something that's going to stand out online or however we choose to manifest different assets within our campaign. So this is a really interesting stat here. So the question is, what kind of content do people want to see from brands they support? So you'll notice here the top 4 results. Within those top 4 results, you've got videos, social media images, and social media videos. So it's really important to just remember this, that what people really want is visual content. You're trying to create stuff that's super, super visual. This is a really funny stat, which I'm not sure how true it is, but I like it if it is true. But the brain interprets images around 50,000 times faster than words. So what that means is your brain is already making decisions or judgments about what you're seeing before you've even read what's on the page. So it's really important that you are trying to use visual storytelling as much as you can with images, your font choice, your colors, all that sort of stuff to help communicate that message and get it through to your audience as quickly as possible. The other thing about, I guess, not just social media, but any campaign asset is that it's really an extension of your brand. So you want to make sure that the content is unmistakably you. So we've put a lot of effort into establishing all of these brand assets. So now we want to make sure we're using them consistently across all of our different touch points. So here's an example of, this is the Ocean Org Instagram post for calling out for volunteers. So let me see if I can put something together similar to this using the Ocean Org brand in Canva right now. So we'll come back over to the editor. I'm going to actually come back to the home page here, back to the very beginning. and we want to use a Instagram post. So let's start with Instagram post. Now, I actually just want to start with a blank post. Of course, we often recommend you start with the template. It really helps you start inspired, and it helps you really not have to work from a blank page and apply your brand across something that's already there. But if you're ready to get started straight into a blank template, you can of course do that as well. So let's try creating a blank template here and create a bit of a post for Ocean.org. So first of all, I'm going to create a couple of different things. I need to add my logo in. So one of the cool things about having a brand kit is that we do have access to all of our different elements and things within our brand kit. So let me try adding in, first of all, I'll put in some text. So let's press T on the keyboard, which will add a text box to my page here. And so the message for this one is going to be Annual Beach Cleanup. Let's make this much bigger. Let's see how I can get this together here. So we need to change this to our brand font, which is Anton. Make that much bigger. Oops, we want to keep that way. We're just going to reduce the spacing here. Put this over here for now. Now, I'm going to find my brand kit, and we're going to use this up in the top corner here. And now I'm going to just change the color of my text to my brand color here. So let's use blue. And I'm also going to put in an element here, maybe a video background. Animation is really important in social media design. We know that it definitely holds people's attention a lot more if you have something animated on your page. So try to use animated elements, whether it's a video or an animated GIF or some sort of item that helps sort of attract attention to your design. So let's stick with that one. I'm going to make this uppercase. The last thing I want here is a button. I need a call to action. So call to action is something that really tells our audience what it is that we want from them when they read this message. So I'm going to put in a little button down the bottom here, and let's add in another bit of type. Let's see if we can take this piece here. I'm going to option drag this type here. And let's say, sign up now. Let's make that also. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I might just change this to our other brand color, maybe to white. No, I think we'll keep it blue. All right, so now we've got somewhat of a design ready to go out. And of course, I could just preview this now like this, and that's what my post is going to look like. That's looking pretty cool. It came together really quickly. And that's ready to share out to social media. So I can download that straight away as an MPEG-4 video or a JPEG if I don't want animation or even a GIF. So let's come back over to the presentation here and talk about tailoring your content. Of course, social media is not a one size fits all. In fact, it's many sizes that you need for social media. So make sure you are considering tailoring your content. We have this really fantastic tool within Canva Pro, which is called Magic Resize. So this helps you really easily resize your designs for multiple touch points. So here's my new design here. I'm just going to get rid of this second page, which you don't need for now. And I might want to resize this for a few different areas. So let's see if we can try doing that now. I'm going to come in and click resize. And let's try Facebook cover. We've already got animated social media. Maybe we want to do a poster as well. Okay, so we've got a couple of different sizes there. So let's click copy and resize and see what we get. All right, so here's my poster. You can see this is more like a US letter or A4 size. And then, of course, we have a Facebook cover here as well. So I don't have to do too much here to fix this up. I might just want to realign a few things, maybe increase the logo size. Perhaps maybe I want to put that down in the bottom corner here. So you can see really easy to to tidy up your design after you've resized it. Very little extra work required to translate that design into multiple different touch points. All right, so this is the last tip I have for you today before I hand over to Edison and we get into some Q&A. Scheduling your content is really important. Obviously, you put all this work into creating your campaign and all these different assets. We have this incredible feature in Canva Pro called Content Planner. So what this does, it allows you to schedule a whole bunch of posts across multiple months and have them automatically go out to multiple different platforms. So you can see here, you just select a day and you can then choose the post that you want to send out. So in this instance, we've got this is a realty post, and make sure you've got an Instagram business account. You'll be able to then connect that to, it's essentially a business page for Instagram business, put in your caption, and then schedule a post. And that's now ready to go out. So definitely check that out. You can also do it right from the editor as well. So make sure you set aside some time, pull out a calendar, plot some content down for the next month or week, or the duration of your campaign, and figure out exactly how you're going to go to market with all of these assets. That's really, really important. Hopefully that's given you some really helpful tools and tips for, I guess, constructing and organizing your campaign and designing everything you need. I'm going to kick it over to Edison now to take us out, and hopefully we'll have a bit of time for a Q&A as well. Thanks so much.
Also, just to share, I learned about the Nike swoosh. It was taken from the Athena's wing, so today I learned about that, and the FedEx arrow, which I haven't known before. Anyway, to summarize what we've covered in this session, Dan showed us how to identify your audience and find your first follower, and Nick, on the other hand, took us through how to designing campaigns, assets to appeal to your audience, and how to launch that campaign on your social channels using Canva's Content Planner. But once your campaign is launched, how do you assess if your campaign is actually effective and working? Well, you're in for a treat because we have a series of YouTube videos that explores in even more depth the process of finding your first follower, but also identify any blockers stopping your campaign message from having impact, and how to measure campaign success using Pirate metrics. So you can look that up, those videos in YouTube, by using the keyword social impact marketing bootcamp. There's three of them, 30-minute episodes. Again, look them up in YouTube using that keyword, social impact marketing bootcamp. And also don't forget to check out this page to learn more about our Canva for Nonprofits program. So go to canva.com/canva-for-nonprofits, canva.com/Canva for Nonprofits. You may also apply to get Canva for Nonprofits by going to canva.com/NFP-sign-up. So that's canva.com/NFP-sign-up to get Canva Pro for free for your nonprofit organization. And if you're keen for more free Canva webinars, this is the place to go. Canva.com/Canva-space. So Canva.com/Canva-space. Please go to that website. We have a range of live webinars every month coming out of our Canva Space. Just head on to that page, scroll down to see event schedule to view and book into the upcoming events. By the way, I just got an update. You don't need to have a Canva nonprofit yet to join the Facebook group. So as long as you're a part of a nonprofit organization, feel free to join the Facebook group. So that's Canva Facebook group, Nonprofits community.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you once again to our amazing presenters. Thank you so much, Edison, for being an amazing host tonight, and to Dan and Nick for your great content.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been wonderful to spend time with you all.
Absolutely. And we hope to see you at another Canva Space webinar very soon. Thank you, and have a great day or good night, wherever you are in the world.
Happy Pride.
Thank you, everybody.